These days, whenever there's a discussion around clean mobility, future mobility, sustainable mobility, mostly the discussion is all about these electric vehicles, the charging infrastructure, and while that is definitely a discussion that we should have and a direction we should have, the future is not going to be a sudden transition from petrol and diesel to electric, especially for a country like India. It has to be a combination of technologies and fuels, not just one solution. So that's the reason why we also listen a lot about CNG, we listen a lot about hybrids, strong hybrids, and now there is a new technology, or rather a new fuel in this space, which is very interesting, and that's exactly what we'll talk about over the next few minutes. And this is the technology, or rather the fuel I was talking about, Flex-fuel, and this is a strong hybrid car. Now, how is that a solution? Well, strong hybrid, we already know, a lot of you have already read about the Toyota Hyrider, which is a strong hybrid, and this is a Corolla hybrid, similar hybrid technology to the Hyrider. Now let's keep the car out of the way today. It's irrelevant. This is a Brazilian spec left-hand drive model. There is no plan of launching this car in India, and even when this technology that we're speaking about comes into India, it's not going to be launched in the Corolla as of now. So the flex fuel, well, it's the amount of ethanol you put into petrol. Right now we do about 10%. The idea is to get to 20% by 2025. When you do that, simple math, 20% means 20% less petrol that you're using, and that means most of our petrol is imported, so savings in terms of import bills. Ethanol is also a cleaner fuel in terms of combustion, so 20% ethanol would mean reduction of emissions, so cleaner for the environment. And now if you're thinking, how do we make ethanol? Well, that's the best part. We don't need to import any of it. It can be made from sugarcane, a lot of residual waste from crops, and most importantly, even for people who live around Delhi, you would be aware of the pollution menace that comes around every winter with the burning of the so-called parali by farmers. Well, even that so-called parali can be used to generate ethanol. So just imagine all of that waste that is right now being burned. Well, none of that happens, no pollution, and it is converted into fuel that further reduces the tailpipe emissions. So yes, as you can see, a lot of benefits, and the government is also pushing it, so a lot of potential. Now, how is the vehicle to drive? In fact, how is the technology? Does it provide any kind of an advantage, or do you have to learn to live with any sort of compromises or not? And the best way to explain that is to get behind the wheel of this car and to explain what this flex fuel strong hybrid technology is, how it works, and what you gain and what you lose. Alright, now let's talk about the most important part, that's the driving part with a flex fuel strong hybrid. Now, as far as this car goes, like I said earlier, this is a Brazilian spec Corolla hybrid. It has got nothing to do with the our Indian market. It's not going to be launched in India. It hasn't been in India, so I'll not talk about the specifications of this particular car. It's irrelevant. What matters here is how the flex fuel hybrid system works, and what do you gain out of it and what do you lose. To start with, well, like I said earlier, it's environmentally friendly. You know, it comes from crops and a lot of other sustainable sources. So yes, what you're putting in the tank is a much cleaner fuel. But when you are behind the wheel, does it feel different? And the answer to that is absolutely not. At least in terms of your overall NVH and the sound that comes from the engine or the other parts, well, you cannot make out any difference when you compare it to a regular, say, a petrol vehicle. The ethanol blended fuel does not create any sort of a different noise. In terms of power also, there's nothing negative. In fact, it's positive. A vehicle with ethanol fuel will produce a higher amount of horsepower and torque in most conditions. So you can completely take out any possibilities of you making any compromises with torque or say the acceleration of the vehicle. Nothing of that sort is going to happen with an ethanol blended fuel. So you're only going to get from it. The downside, however, there is a flip side to this. The downside is that you might end up losing some of the fuel efficiency. And how much, right? Now that's what you were thinking. Well, it could be anywhere in the region between as low as starting from say about 7% to as high as say 30% compared to a regular petrol vehicle. Now that of course is a high. It wouldn't happen 30% wouldn't happen with every vehicle, but whatever you lose in terms of fuel efficiency, well, ideally, please keep in mind it's a future technology that we are driving right now. We do not know exactly how the government policies will work out on this, but as and when they do, there is hope that there will be differential pricing. So maybe ethanol blended fuels will have a lower price, and that should offset the loss in fuel economy. There could be other measures also from the government, and that is from the policy perspective. From the vehicle itself, how do you offset it? Well, this is a strong hybrid like say a Toyota Hyrider. It's already a strong hybrid, so say about 50 to 60% of your driving time or your driving duties are handled by the battery and the electric motor alone. So it's only for that 40% odd time when the engine is kicking in that you're losing that fuel efficiency. So that figure would actually be much lesser in many cases. And hence, that is how one way in terms of technology, how you counter it. So yes, in terms of driving, I don't see any negative part about ethanol blended fuels. I think it's a big positive step for us. We should go ahead down this route. There is only a benefit in terms of power and torque when you talk about driving experience. No negativities except the slight loss in fuel efficiency, which can be countered, like I said. So overall, yes, I think it's a technology that's worth investing in. And for all of you out there who are looking at future technologies, this is one that is worth considering for the long term. So in the end, well, I am very pleased with the overall performance of the flex fuel technology, especially when you pair it with the strong hybrid. I think it works very well. And as like I said earlier in this video, of course, the government is pushing for it. There is a very obvious economic advantage that we will gain from doing this across sectors, not just for the automotive sector. And most importantly, you as a user of the vehicle or the driver of the vehicle do not stand to lose anything when you compare it to a regular petrol vehicle. And in fact, you only stand to gain a lot in terms of many other factors that we discussed in this video earlier. So yes, definitely a technology that is well suited for India, and most importantly, the approach for future is not going to be about whether it's electric or this or some other thing. No, it's a big market, a very diverse country. A switch just simply like that to electric will not happen, is not possible. The solution for us is a combination of various technologies, and this is one of them with very good potential for the future.